Blade is held on with a 5/16 socket head cap screw, fine thread. They use a nylon lock nut, and they also put a lock washer on each one of the bolts. I approve, it's a good method. The problem I'm having is the lock washers are hard to hang on to when you take them off. And so they fell down inside this housing. And I fished out 3 of them, but I can't seem to get the third one to come. It's not wanting to cooperate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this thing over, see if I can't get that to fall out the front. One thing about it, this chipper is heavy. It does not roll easily. I heard something rattling around down there. I hope that's a lock washer. There it is. This blade is held on with a 5/16 fine thread bolt, a lock washer, and a 5/16 fine thread nylon lock nut. Now with any luck, I'm going to be able to put these bolts through and start the nuts on with my fingers. I'm going to start by putting the rear bolt in. That way I won't be reaching past the front bolt to get to it. And there's the bolt in. I'm going to try and put the lock washer and the nut in at the same time. Well, success at that one. Let's try the next one. Bolt, nut, and lock washer. Swing that up. I pinch the nut and the lock washer together in between my finger and thumb. Then while I'm holding the head, I slip the lock washer over and then start the nut. Looks easy. Hell, it might be easy, but a lot of practice getting so that you can do that with your fingers. I'm going to take this socket and use it to tighten up the nut. These flat ratcheting wrenches are really handy because they get into tight spots that you can't get into with a full length socket. And a crow's foot works, but it's a real pain in the butt. Back and do the back one. Now we're ready to put the second one on. It's pretty much the same thing. Whenever you're assembling a lock washer and a nut on a bolt, you want to put the lock washer underneath the nut, and you want to tighten the nut last. Because otherwise you're fighting the resistance of the threaded bolt in the hole, and you'll end up getting a torque that's not exactly accurate. I could get in there with an open-end wrench. This ratchet box end wrench is really handy. I didn't buy it particularly for this job, but I did buy it just before I did this job, and I am glad I did. Just to make my life more difficult. Well, that seemed to work pretty good. There we go. Now we have a hairpin clip. Wonder how it got that name, huh? One goes in the top. And one goes in the bottom. For how it goes, but whoever worked on this last did some kind of funky things to it. It's supposed to have a couple of shims inside this, and those shims are supposed to keep this chute aligned and snug. Now, somebody decided those shims were kind of a pain in the butt they didn't want to have, so they didn't put them in. So I'm going to end up having to make a couple, but for right now, I'm not going to bother with it. You definitely want to have this on there though. Without that on, it throws stuff a long, long ways. Now let's see how this thing does after we sharpen the blades and put it back together again all cleaned up. Hope it starts. Well, it takes a piece of wood down to the size of that one. Of course, that one's old and dead and dry, and that's harder to cut.